Picture this. You just launched a beautifully designed e-commerce site, but your bounce rates is through the roof. Users are abandoning their carts and your search engine ranking are plumbing. The culprit? Slow load times and poor performance, especially on mobile devices. Now, did you know that over 60% of web traffic nowadays comes from the mobile devices? In this fast-paced digital world, speed and performance are paramount. Enter Next.js, the framework that's revolutionizing how we build web applications. Welcome to Intro to Next.js. I'm Carlos Dars, your guide on this exciting journey. With years of experience under my belt, I've seen Next.js transforming projects from slow, clunky websites into lightning-fast, SEO-friendly powerhouses. In this course, we'll step into the core features of Next.js that makes it a game changer. You'll learn how to leverage server-side rendering, static site generation, and efficient routing to create web apps that not only look great but perform exceptionally. We'll start with the basics, setting up your first project and quickly move on to creating dynamic pages, managing data, and optimizing performance. By the end, you will have the skills to build scalable, high-performance web apps that are standing out in today's competitive digital landscape. Whether you're a React developer looking to level up or new to web development, this course will equip you with the tools to stay ahead of the curve. Ready to supercharge your web development skills? Let's unlock the full potential of Next.js together. Welcome to the first video of our Intro to Next.js course. Before we dive into technical details, let me share a quick story. A couple of years ago, I was working on a project for a client who needed their site to load fast. Well, really fast. We had tried all sorts of optimizations, but it just wasn't cutting it. Then we switched to Next.js. Suddenly, with features like server-side rendering and static site generation, it was like the site has been given a rocket fuel. That's what Next.js brings to the table: speed, scalability, and flexibility. By the end of this video, you will be able to evaluate the advantages of Next.js that makes it the preferred choice of companies like Twitch, Netflix, and Hulu, and why it's worth learning if you want to take your React skills to the next level. Trust me, it's a game changer. So, what's the big deal about Next.js? First up, server-side rendering, or SSR for short. While traditional React apps render content on the client side, which can sometimes slow things down, but with the Next.js, we get SSR out of the box, meaning your content is rendered on the server and then sent to the user's browser. Faster load times, better SEO, and overall improved performance. It's like having your own cake and eating it too. Next up, we have static site generation. If you want a static site, Next.js has you covered with static site generation. Imagine building a blog or a portfolio where the content doesn't change often. Next.js can generate static HTML pages that loads lightning fast. And let's be honest, who doesn't love a fast website? Imagine you're building a house, and instead of needing a complex blueprint for every door, you just slap a label on it and voila, it leads exactly where you want it to. That's what routing in Next.js feels like. In traditional React apps, you're setting up routing libraries, wrestling with configurations like you're assembling IKEA furniture, with missing instructions. But with Next.js, you just create new file in the page folder and boom, you've got a new route. It's as easy as naming a file. I remember spending an entire afternoon setting up routing for a React app with a library, and by the time I was done, I needed another coffee. With Next.js, routing takes minutes. No headaches, no extra caffeine required. You don't have to worry about the performance hits as your app grows. Next.js automatically splits your code into smaller bundles, so only the necessary JavaScript loads for each page. Faster websites, better user experience, Your users won't even realize how smoothly they're gliding through your app. One of the pain points with a single-page applications is SEO, right? Well, with Next.js, search engines can crawl your pages easily because of that sweet server-side rendering we mentioned earlier. So, no more worrying about poor rankings on Google just because you're using a React. Now, let's talk about built-in API routes. Ever wished you had a superpower like being able to instantly create a backend API without setting up a whole new server? Well, within Next.js, you kinda do. You don't need to spin up a separate server, mess with CORS, or deal with a million config files just to create a simple API up and running. Next.js lets you create API routes directly into your project. It's like Next.js is the superhero cape you didn't know you needed. I once spent hours configuring an Express server for a basic API, and by the time I was done, it felt like I had just run a marathon. With Next.js, you can whip up an API in no time and feel like coding wizard while doing it. Seriously, it's that easy. Next.js is not just a framework, it's a game changer for React developers. With features like server-side rendering, static site generation, and automatic code splitting. It's built to make your life easier and your apps faster. Whether you're working on your personal project or building the next big thing, Next.js has got your back. So are you ready to take your React skills to the next level with Next.js? In the next video, we'll set up your first Next.js project. Loves that moment when everything just works perfectly on the first try. Well, you're in the luck, because setting up Next.js is almost like that. Smooth, fast, and I dare say, satisfying. By the end of this video, you will be able to create and launch your first Next.js project independently. And just so we're clear, this process is smoother than the one that I confidently told my friend I cook a 3-course meal. And somehow, it actually worked. No kitchen disasters here, just server-side rendering magic. Let's dive in. First, if you don't already have Node.js installed, don't worry, it's just a quick setup. Node.js is essential because it allows us to run JavaScript code outside of the browser, and Next.js depends on it. So what you need to do is just go to the official website, which is nodejs.org, and under the downloads, you can search for the specific version you want. As you can see, at the time of the recording, we have the latest stable version setting to 20.17.0 and the current version is 22.8. So this of course is going to be updated throughout the time. Then you choose your system like Windows, Mac OS, Linux, and you follow the instructions, and trust me, it's quite easy to get it up and running. And after the installation, just to make sure you actually have installed it, you can open up your terminal and write a command that says node-v for version. And as you can see, I have the current version 22.8.0. And if you choose to use a little bit older versions, it's probably gonna be fine. But don't choose the really old ones. And that's it. With Node.js installed, we're set to proceed with setting up Next.js. In this demonstration, I will be using code editor Visual Studio Code, which you probably are familiar or have at least heard about. Of course, you can choose any other code editor of your choice. So now that Node.js is installed, we can install Next.js with just one command. In this demonstration, I have created just an empty folder on my computer and open it up through the Visual Studio Code. And I'm going to use this time the inbuilt terminal from the Visual Studio Code. To open it, we can choose from Terminal and New Terminal. As you can see, down on the bottom, we have a new terminal opened. And now with just one command that says npx create next app at latest, we should be able to download everything needed for the Next.js to run. As you can see here, if we have any questions, I can just answer Y for yes, hit enter, and it's going to ask for the project name. I'm going to leave it default my app. And would you want to use a TypeScript, which is a little bit different type of language coming from the JavaScript? I'm going to say no this time. ESLint, let's say yes. Tailwind CSS, yes. Source directory, no. App routers, yes. Import alias, no. And it's up to creating and installing everything that we need. As you can see here, I have some warnings here and there, but as long as they are not critical, I'm just going to ignore it for the time's sake. And as you can see, at the end it says success. So that means we have not only Next.js installed and everything that is needed for it, we also have our first project. But before we move on to explore the project, let's just quickly test what kind of version we have of Next.js installed with writing command npm list next. With a simple command npx next-v. As you can see here, I'm running version 14.2.11, which is the latest version at the recording time. Now let's open up the project and see what kind of file structure we have here. We will not dive too deep in the structure itself, but so we know that we have apps folder, fonts folder. There are some few JavaScript pages like layouts.js, page.js. We have a folder where all of the node modules are going to be, and that's kind of it. Not too many. So what we can try out next is actually running the app itself. In order to run the app, first of all, we need to make sure we are inside of the desired folder. So right now, I actually need to change my location in the terminal by writing cd and my name of the project. And I'm going to hit enter and I'm in. From this point, I can run command npm run dev. And it should start our page in few seconds or even milliseconds, depending on how fast your machine is. And boom, in less time, and that's it. It takes less time to make a cup of coffee, and there you have it. It just took a few seconds to create a completely new project out of nowhere and run it. As you can see, it says that it's running locally on localhost port 3001 for myself, but probably for you it's going to be just 3000. It depends if you have something running in the background already. So I can click on this link and voila, we have our page deployed. This of course is the generated code itself, and now let's make some small changes. Well, actually, let's create the classical Hello World app, which is something that you should always start with. So let's switch back to our code. In the code itself, under the app, there should be page.js file. And here we have a lot of code. I would like to delete everything that's related to HTML code up until about here. From here, I will want to write, here we have some sort of suggested code. I will take off the image and leave just main and heading 1 for the heading, and we have the image itself. So as you can see, I didn't have to rerun anything, save anything like that. It just renders automatically, and now we can switch back to our browser. And only thing we need to do is to rerun to refresh the app. And voila, here is our Hello World. And just like that, you got your first Next.js project up and running. From here, you're ready to start building pages and exploring the powerful features of the framework. Do you remember the first time you built something from scratch? Whether it was a simple Lego tower or maybe even your first website. There's something magical about watching an idea to take shape, brick by brick, or in our case, line by line. Today, we're stepping in the same space. but this time with Next.js. By the end of this video, you will be able to construct and deploy your first functional page using Next.js. No longer just theory, but something real. It's a small step, but one that opens up the door to endless possibilities. So let's take that step together. As you remember from the previous lesson, we set up our homepage using page.js under the app directory. So file automatically becomes the root of your application. Now let's expand our app by adding a new page in the same app folder. To differentiate a little bit this new page, under the app folder, we're going to create another folder that we were going to call about. So under the about folder, we will have a same name, which is going to be page.js, but as it's going to sit under the about folder, we're going to be easily able to differentiate from our home page. So under this folder, let's create a new file that I'm going to call page.js, and let's put some code inside of it. So the code that we want to put inside of here is going to be very simple. We have a function that's called about, and it is exporting and returning just a heading that says about us. So we can see something, right? And this is how easy it is to create a new page in Next.js. We created the folder called about, and inside it we added the page.js file. This instantly generates a new route at /about. No need for extra configuration or routing libraries. Now to test it out, let's go to the browser. Here we have our browser up and running still, as I didn't have to really do anything. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to change the URL from the default or the home page where we have / nothing, even / we don't need to put. I'm going to put /about, and voila, here is our new page. And it was that easy. Here we have the result just by creating the page.js file inside of the about folder. Again, as I mentioned, in Next.js automatically generates the route for us. And from now on, we can easily access this page by putting specific path. Now, coming back to the original page.js that we already had beforehand, I'm going to add one more line in the main code itself. That's going to look like this. We're going to link the new page and name it go to about page. So let's see if this actually is going to work. Now we need to get back to the main page. Now that we added using a link component navigation between the pages, it should be seamless and fast without any needing to fully reload the page. So let's see how it works. We have a go to about page. Let's click on the page and voila, indeed, it was seamless and very fast. Of course, we don't have too much of a data to load here, but it should work even with a lot of data inside of it. And here it is. So again, just clicking the link, it takes us to about page, and Next.js optimizes these transitions between the pages so they feel smooth and fast, thanks to client-side navigation. And of course, we can navigate back as well. So to conclude a little bit, when you click on the link, you'll notice there is no full page reload. That's because Next.js is using client-side navigation, as I mentioned, which means that only the parts of the page that is needed updating are fetched. This makes the user experience fast and smoother. It's one of the ways Next.js combines the best of both worlds: server-side rendering for the initial load and client-side navigation for fast page transition. And there you go, your first Next.js page is live. You've just scratched the surface of what's possible, but you're already on your way to building a dynamic web app. Have you ever found yourself tangled in endless configurations and routing setups, wondering why something that should be simple feels like solving a complex puzzle? If you've worked with React before, you probably know what I'm talking about. Well, today is going to feel like a breath of fresh air. In this video, we're going to expand our app by adding dynamic routes. we'll show how Next.js makes it easy to handle pages that depend on dynamic data, such as blog posts or product pages, without any complicated setup. Let's dive in. So far, we have created a static homepage and about page, each with its own route. But what if we wanted a page that could change based on the URL? For example, imagine a page for blog posts where each post has its own URL. Let's see how we can do that using dynamic routes in Next.js. For this demonstration, we will create yet another folder under the app folder. This folder I will call posts. And under this folder, we will create yet another one that should look something like this. I'm going to use angle brackets and put ID inside of it. And under this folder, we will want to create a new file, which is going to be page.js. As you can see, our route is app, posts, ID, and then the page.js. So this is going to be the function we want to put inside of here. We will have a simple function that is called post, but as you can see, it has inputs as parameter ID. And we have created a dynamic route by wrapping the folder name in square brackets, as I mentioned before. This tells Next.js to treat the part as a URL as dynamic parameter. Inside the page.js file, we're using param.id to display the post's ID. Let's see this in action. In order to test it out, we will head to our browser, and here we need to navigate to /posts. As you can see, if I just enter /posts, I have 404, so nothing found. It's because it is expecting an input in the URL, so it's dynamically changing. And we can add that by adding another slash and let's say adding 1. And voila, here is our page with post ID 1. If I'm going to change post ID to let's say 2, it should change and update as well. And here we have a working example of dynamic URLs. As you can see, this route dynamically adjusts based on the URL. This is incredibly useful for pages like blog posts, user profiles, or product pages, where each page is based on a unique ID or parameter in the URL. Now, let's head back to our code under the main page. We will adjust a little bit our menu section that we also adding these new pages. And let's actually add 2 new pages with different IDs, just like we tested before. But before we do that, I would like to make one more change. From Hello World, we can actually change to something like welcome to our homepage. This, I think, will look a little bit nicer. And here are going to be the changes we want to add. As you can see, we are following the same structure as before with the About page. This time, in the URL, we are putting 1 and 2 as an input IDs. Plus, I put a couple of page breaks so we have a nicer view. Let's head back to our browser and see how it looks like. Let's head back to the home page. And voila, here we have welcome to our home page. Plus, we have still working About page, as you can see. And we have post 1 and post 2. By using dynamic routes in Next.js, we have created pages that adjust based on the URL without any complicated configuration. The file-based routing system does all the heavy lifting for us. You could easily expand to this, handle more complex data, like fetching post details from an API. And that's how easy it is to set up dynamic routes in Next.js. We've added the ability to dynamically generate pages based on the URL, which is incredibly useful for apps that display data like blog posts or product pages. In the next video, we will continue building our app by fetching real data and rendering to the page. Let's keep going. Imagine your app as a sleek, high-tech car, data being the heart and soul. Now, without data, it's all shiny metal and no engine. But when you harness the power of data, like the fact that the 90% of the world's data was generated in the last 2 years, you're not just fueling your app. You're bringing it to life, making it responsive, dynamic, and truly powerful. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting parts of building with Next.js, which is fetching data. Now that we have seen how to create dynamic routes in Next.js, it's time to take things up a notch by fetching data dynamically based on the route. Imagine having a blog where every post is loaded based on the ID in the URL. Today, we'll see how Next.js makes fetching data for dynamic pages simple and powerful. Let's jump in. Previously, we set up a dynamic route to handle different post IDs. Now, instead of just displaying the post ID, we'll fetch the data about each post and render it to the page dynamically. In order to do so, we will create, let's call it fake data. We will need to create a new folder where we will put the file where the posts are gonna be stored. So let's get started. Under our app folder, I would like to create a new folder that I will call data. And under this folder, I'm going to create a new file that's going to be called posts.js. And in here, we're just going to put some mock data, which is going to be a couple of posts. And of course, if needed, we could add more posts. As you can see here, it consists of ID, title, and the content itself. So this will help us to demonstrate different data in the page depending on the URL. In a real-world scenario, this data could be coming from an API, but for this demo, we will just use it locally to simulate the process. In order to incorporate this mock data, we will need to make some changes in the post page. So let's head under the post folder where we have the pages file. So the new change is going to look something like this. In the first place, we will import the posts from the data under the post. So first of all, we start with importing posts from the data folder where we have the posts.js file that we just created. Then we have a function that will loop through all of them and represent the necessary data as title and the content as I mentioned before. As you can see, I have also implemented a simple if statement that if we are trying to access a post that doesn't exist, we will have an error that says post not found. Remember, developing a software, it is very important to handle all kinds of situations when something goes wrong or the user is using the software not in the intended way. We have to think about each detail, how to represent that. And in this case, we have a nice error handling that's simple enough to work. Now, we are actually ready to test it out. So let's head to our page. Now that we are at our home page, we have the same post 1 and 2 that we created earlier in the previous video. So if I'm going to click on it, remember it previously said post with ID, let's say 1 or 2 or whatever number we input in the URL. But this time, as you can see, as I'm opening the post with ID 1, it shows this is the content of the first post. And remember, this data is coming from the data.js file with the mock data that we created earlier. And if I come back and open up the second post, you can see this is the content from the second post. This indeed means that our fetching data from our locally available API is working. And one more thing that I want to try. Remember that I mentioned we implemented a error detection if we are accessing a post that doesn't exist. So let's head to URL and enter number 3 as a post ID, and voila, we have a text that says post not found. So this means error handling works perfectly. We have now built a basic blog where the users can navigate between posts, and each post contains is fetched dynamically based on the URL. This setup is not only simple to create, but also scalable as your app grows. You can easily connect this to a real API or database and handle more complex data fetching. And that's how easy it is to fetch data for dynamic routes in Next.js. We have taken our dynamic post routes from the last lesson and enhanced it by fetching post data based on the URL. This opens up endless possibilities for creating dynamic, data-driven applications. In the next lesson, we will continue by styling our components to make the app look great. Let's keep going. You know that feeling when a project finally starts to come together? Not just functionally, but virtually. It's like the difference between a rough sketch and a polished design. Today we are going to take the dynamic pages we built in the last few sessions and make them look amazing by adding some styles. We'll use both CSS modules and Tailwind CSS to style our components, giving you flexibility and power when styling your apps. So let's get started. What we're going to try out right now is going to be a simple CSS styling applied to our post pages. So in order to create specifically targeted CSS code, one of the ways would be just creating a specific CSS file for a specific page that we want to style. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So under the same folder, under the posts and ID, where we are holding the page that shows the posts, we're going to create another file. This file I'm going to call post.module.css. And here I'm going to put some CSS code. Here's the code. As you can see, it's pretty simple. We have some padding, backgrounds, font size. Let's maybe change the color to something a little bit grayish or whatever you like. And this will be as the base in order to style the page itself. But next thing we need to do is to actually apply these changes to the post page as well. Here we have our post page. We have defined some simple styles for post page, and we will style the container, the title, and the content of each post using CSS modules. So that's why we created the file earlier, which will allow us to scope these styles to the component, preventing any global CSS conflicts, which may arise as we have more and more files coming in. In order to incorporate the new style, the first thing we need to do, of course, is to import the styling page. And we will do that with a simple import line like this. Then we will have to update a little bit how we represent the page itself. And it's actually pretty simple. Here we have H1 for the post title and the paragraph itself. So what we can do, we can go inside of this tag and add class name. By adding class name, we can specify which of the properties from the CSS we want to take. And I will write something like this. I will write styles, because that's how I named the import, dot title. And there we go. This is how we can apply a specific style for specific part of our page. Now here I have implemented all of the changes that I want to apply. So we have styling for the main tag, H1 tag, and the paragraph tag. So actually we are ready to take a look how our page looks at the moment. So here we are at our home page. Let's navigate to one of the posts. And there we have. This is the new look. We have a different background. We have a different color for the title and the size. And of course, we have a different color for the content itself. So let's take a look at the post number 2. It should look the same, and it does. So everything is working as expected. Let's take this one step further by introducing Tailwind CSS for utility first styling. As at the beginning of our course, once we created the project itself, we agreed to use the Tailwind. We already have everything needed for it. But if not, then we would be able to use just a simple command to install it as well. As you can see, under our folder structure, we have this tailwind.config.js file. As I open it up, we will not really change anything, but here we have a global configuration settings that you could set for the Tailwind. Also, we want to open up the globals.css file just to make sure if we have the necessary components for our demonstration. And indeed, in lines 1 to 3, we have Tailwind-based incorporated components and utilities. These ones we will need. With Tailwind CSS, you can quickly style components using utility classes without writing any custom CSS code. It's a great way to rapidly build user interfaces. Now that Tailwind is all set up, let's use it to add some extra styling to our components. For this demonstration, we will navigate to our main page over here where we have the menu. And let's say I want to change a little bit how we are welcoming our users. So under the H tag over here, I will add some styling. This is going to be similarly what we did before by adding a class name, but as we are using a Tailwind, remember, mentioned before, we don't need to write custom CSS code. It's something similar to Bootstrap styling as well. And here is the code that I wanted to add. I'm going to make the text larger. I want to make the font bold, and I'm going to add some margins around the text that says welcome to our homepage. Now let's take a look how this actually looks. Voila! As you can see, welcome to our homepage is actually standing out a little bit. Of course, we are not really paying too much of our time to style it as it would be in real life, but to get the point, as you can see, we have few different ways how to style our page, and that's actually great. We have now styled our dynamic pages using combination of CSS modules and Tailwind CSS. CSS modules gives us scoped custom styles, while Tailwind CSS offers a utility-first approach for quickly building layouts. This gives you the flexibility to style your app in whichever way suits your needs the best. And that's how you style your components in Next.js. Whether you prefer the control of CSS modules or the rapid development style of Tailwind CSS, you now have the tools to make your app look polished and professional. We will continue building on this in the next lesson by working with more complex data fetching and page layouts. Let's keep going. Ever been on a website where you just can't figure out how to get where you want? Frustrating, right? Good navigation isn't just a nice to have. It's what makes your app feels seamless and keeps users engaged. Today in this video, we're going to make sure your app flows like a well-oiled machine. By the end of this video, you will be able to develop seamless and intuitive navigation within your app using Next.js. Built-in tools enhancing user experience across pages. Let's dive in and make sure no one gets lost in your app. We have built a dynamic blog where users can view posts based on their IDs, and we have styled our components using CSS modules and Tailwind CSS. Now we will improve the user experience by adding a global navigation bar that will be accessible from every page in the app. For this purpose, we will create a specific file for that. So under the app folder, I'm just going to create a new file that I'm going to call navigation.js. In here, we're going to need some code. So this code is going to be our navigation bar itself. As you can see, what do we have here? We have an unordered list with listed items like home, about, post 1 and post 2. So this is basically what we were able to do from the home page. But as long as we did go inside of one of the pages, we had to go back in order to get back to our menu. This time, we will have the menu on top of every page where we will actually add it. So let's say we have here a class named Blue. We'll see how it looks like and maybe change to something else afterwards. But other than that, we have a function called layout, and we are importing global CSS files if there's anything to take from that. And we are importing link to make sure we have the navigation up and running in no time. Let's start by adding this navigation bar to our main page. So we are heading to the main page, as you can see over here. And to be honest, we will not have to do too much. First things first, we need, of course, to import. We are importing layouts function from the navigation.javascript file. And we have to incorporate this layout in the page structure itself. So actually, we are not really using the main tag here much, and we can replace it by the layout. So in this case, we are wrapping our menu around the content we already have. And that's it. Again, it just took one file, few lines of code, and actually 2-3 lines of code to integrate in another page. So let's head to our browser and see how it works. And there we have it. We have a home, about, post 1 and post 2 navigation bar on top of the page. And let's try to click it. So if I click home, of course nothing changes because we are already there. About, you can see it navigates to about page. But as I mentioned before, we need to add this menu to every page we want to see it. And also you can see it's not going to be visible in the post 1 nor 2. So we will do that in a second. But let's change one thing. I don't really like that blue color. Let's change to something else. So here we can go back to navigation.javascript file, and under the blue, I will, let's say, change it to purple. This already looks much better. And from here, we can add to other pages the menu as well, and actually in a similar fashion. So let's continue with the post page. Let's head over here and give the same import. In this case, as you can see, we are actually styling the main paragraph. So I'm just going to create another tag with the layout itself. And let's not forget about closing the layout as well. And there we have it. This should work. So this is as it should look like, but as I can see, there's something wrong with the code. Let's open up the terminal a little bit. And I can see that the module was not found, and the module is referred to the layout. So the problem is, from the file, once we are importing something else, we have to look where we are in the grand scheme of the folder structure. This time, what we need to do is the same what we did with the data and the posts. We need to navigate to a global path. So something like this should solve our problem. Let's head over to the page and check out our posts. Voila, we have the navigation bar also in the posts. One last thing is the about page. So I'm gonna give you a challenge to add that. And here I have a fully working navigation bar on every page that we have. Home, about, post 1, post 2. So if you were wondering how to actually make this work for the about page, there were a few different things that we needed to tweak. Let me quickly show you. So first of all, a navigation import should look something like this based on where it's located. And the next thing, if we're adding a layout, we needed to also add these parentheses over here under the return, because we're no longer answering with just one line. So by using layout components, we have made the navigation bar reusable across all pages. The app router in Next.js 14 makes this process extremely simple, allowing us to define a layout and apply it globally. This gives your app a consistent look and feel without needing to repeat the code. And there we have it, a global navigation bar that works across all of the pages. We have used a layout component to make sure our navigation is consistent and reusable. And we've stayed within the Tailwind CSS to keep things looking sharp. In the next video, we will talk about environmental variables. Picture this. You're the master of your app's inner working, with the power to securely manage everything from API keys to secret configurations. In fact, 63% of data breaches are linked to compromised credentials. So, keeping these details safe yet accessible is crucial. That's the role of environment variables. They're the guardians of your app's sensitive information, always ready when you need them, but locked down when you don't. In this video, we're going to learn how to handle these keys securely and efficiently in Next.js, making sure your app stays protected while still being adaptable across different environments. By the end of this video, you will be able to use the tools to keep your app both powerful and secure. Ready to unlock the secrets? Let's get started. So we have built a dynamic data-driven application with a sleek design and global navigation. Now we're going to take it one step further by managing environment-specific data like API keys, which is crucial for real-world applications. To demonstrate this, we will need to create a local environment file. So please make sure you make it in the correct position. We need to position it in the root directory of our whole project. So it's not inside of the app folder that we have created everything so far, but inside of the whole My App. I'm going to right click, new file, and I'm going to call it .env for environment.local. This is a classical name for such a file. And let's imagine we have an API key to use it somehow in our application. So this is going to be just a dummy public API key. So it was that easy, and it's just stored locally on our machine, or we can deploy it on the servers where it's needed. And from now on, we should be able to access this API key throughout our application. So let's test that. First things first, let's go to our home page where we have the menu and the menu before that we created. Let's add one more line over here that should look something like this. It's just a paragraph where we are accessing, and you can see how I am accessing the API key. So I'm writing process.env. and then the name of the data we have in the environment local file. And that's kind of it. Now we are ready to go to our page and see. Here it is. We can easily access API keys. Of course, for this demonstration, we are opening it up and just showing on the screen. But in real case scenarios, if we are later on using it, it's just going to be in the backend part, so we can use it whenever it's needed. So now let's try to add it to other pages as well. So coming back, let's go under the, let's say, posts page, and somewhere here, we can also add the key. Coming back, post 1, here's the key, post 2, here's the key. So everything seems to be working. Environment variables are essential for securely managing data like API keys, database URLs, or other configuration settings. And with Next.js, they're incredibly easy to set up and use. By using next public prefix, we can expose these variables to both the client and the server side. And that's how you handle environment variables in Next.js. Whether it's securing your API keys or managing configuration settings for different environments, you now have the tools to keep your applications secure and adaptable. With these best practices, you'll be able to manage your app's sensitive data like a pro. And with that, we have built a fully functional mini project. We started by setting up dynamic routing, fetching data, and styling our components using CSS modules and Tailwind CSS. Then we added a global navigation bar and learned how to use environment variables to securely manage sensitive data. Let's recap everything we have accomplished in this mini project. We created dynamic routes using Next.js App Router, allowing users to navigate to posts using dynamic URL parameters. Then we simulated data fetching by displaying posts based on their IDs. We also used a combination of CSS modules for scoped styling and Tailwind CSS for utility first styling, giving our app a polished, responsive look. Then we created a reusable layout component to implement a global navigation bar, providing consistency across the app. Last but not least, we securely manage environment-specific data such as API keys using environment variables in Next.js. We built a mini project that incorporates many of the key features of a modern web application: dynamic routing, data fetching, responsive styling, global navigation, and secure data management. And the best part? You have done it all using Next.js 14 and the App Router. Congratulations! Congratulations! You have reached the final video of our Intro to Next.js course. It's been a journey, and I hope you're now feeling confident about using Next.js to build web applications. In this video, we'll quickly recap what we have covered and provide some guidance on where you can go next with your learning. Whether you want to dive deeper into Next.js or expand your React skills, there's plenty ahead. let's get into the summary and some of the future directions. First of all, in the first lesson, you learn how to install and configure a Next.js project from scratch, getting comfortable with development environment. This gave you the first taste of how efficient this framework is for React-based development. Then we explored how easy it is to set up pages and routing with Next.js, file-based systems. Then we looked at powerful data fetching methods. You have seen how to style components in Next.js using CSS, modules and style components, giving you a flexible options to manage your app design and structure. In the final lesson, we covered navigation using the link component and managing environment variables securely, both essential for scalable and secure web development. So what's next? Now that you have built a strong foundation, there's how you can take your Next.js skills further. Start off by learning to create routes for content generated on the fly, like a user profile or blog post. API routes, explore how to build them, the back-end logic within your Next.js app without needing an external server. Dig into deploying serverless functions directly from Next.js to handle real-time data processing. Since Next.js is built on React, it's a great time to deepen your React knowledge as well. Mastering React hooks, content API, and state management will make you a more proficient developer. Start applying your skills to projects like a personal portfolio, blog, or even a small e-commerce store. Real-world experience is the best teacher. Next.js is always evolving. Keep an eye on the latest updates, stay involved in the community, and read about the latest features and improvements. You've come a long way in understanding the basics of Next.js. Now it's time to apply what you have learned, explore more advanced features, and keep building. Web development is a fast-paced field, and staying curious is key to growing as a developer. Hello, you've done it. You've officially completed the Intro to Next.js course. This isn't just a goodbye, it's a celebration of all the progress you have made in understanding one of the most powerful web development frameworks available today. Over the course of the past few lessons, we have explored key concepts, tackling new challenges, and worked through hands-on projects to solidify your understanding of Next.js. From setting up your first project, mastering routing, fetching data efficiently, and styling components, you have built a strong foundation in Next.js that will serve you well in the future projects. Your commitment and dedication have been impressive, and you should be proud of how far you have come, whether it's just starting out in web development or expanding your React skills. Completing this course is a significant milestone in your journey. But remember, this is just the beginning. Intro to Next.js is the stepping stone to a world of possibilities. The skills and knowledge you have gained are now part of your toolkit, and there's so much more to explore. Keep building, keep experimenting, and keep learning. To continue your journey, I suggest revisiting course materials whenever you need a refresher. Experimenting with new projects like building a blog or portfolio using Next.js, and joining the Next.js community to stay updated and share ideas with fellow developers. Thank you for being a part of this course. It's been a privilege to guide you through the world of Next.js, and I'm excited to see where this knowledge takes you. As our course comes to a close, your journey as a web developer is just beginning. Keep pushing forward, stay curious, and enjoy the process. Congratulations again, and until we meet the next time. Goodbye.